Bitcoin bull and maximalist Max Keiser gives his Bitcoin prediction in this latest interview. He believes 2022 is the beginning of a new Bitcoin era, and with increased adoption as legal tender increases, so does demand. He also believes that as banks and institutions start mining Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, they'll be the official custodians and create a new infrastructure. Let's listen to Max as he gives his prediction for Bitcoin. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here on this channel. Let's get right into the video.
There was a school of thought that suggested that the US dollar would continue as world reserve currency and that the Bitcoin would be the world reserve asset. And I never bought into that theory. I questioned it. I just didn't see that happening. It seems to me that Bitcoin was going to eat all the fiat money world in the world, and it was going to eat gold, and it was going to eat all assets. And so when you have the rise of Bitcoin and you have the fall of fiat, that fall of fiat is going to be everything attached to fiat. The petrodollar is certainly attached to fiat. The military-industrial complex is attached to fiat. The global bond market is attached to fiat. So when these things crack and they fall apart, it's going to be kinetic, very kinetic. And people are going to be like, bang, 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 shooting at each other because, this is revert to human nature, which is one of the biggest cycles of all. Human nature is something that you can't really escape from. So this is the fall of fiat money. That's what we're seeing. You got deglobalization and de-dollarization. So those two themes we identified 2 years ago, and then we said this year would be the big year for de-dollarization and deglobalization. So that's what we're talking about. So both of those things were, had a lifespan that would eventually come to an end. The US dollar is a world reserve currency since the end of World War II, so-called 70, 75 years. You had the US dollar as world reserve currency. Since 1971, it became a Ponzi scheme. And the theme of extend and pretend became the dominant force in the global economy, where all problems were solved by printing more money and extending the maturity of all the bonds and lowering the coupon. And in this way, you had malinvestment, you had the rise of the kleptocrats in America and around the world, you had the financialization boom, and you had the deindustrialization that went on in the United States that could only be made possible if you had concurrently a financialization and a transfer of wealth from the bottom to the top.
Keiser's outlook might be slightly controversial, but it's also refreshing to see his perspective on what the future will look like with the price action for Bitcoin. In part 2 of his interview, Keiser talks about inflation and how Wall Street is a cover for the central banking system and how the fiat world could see a massive collapse very soon.
So anyway, the bond market, which is the Ponzi market base layer, after many, many years talking about when will the bond market finally roll over and we enter a secular bear market for bonds, I think I'm 99% sure now that that's what's just happened. We're entering a secular bear market for bonds. That means that interest rates will be going up for the next 5, 10, or 15 years. It's a secular move in interest rates higher. So that's the de-dollarization. Deglobalization was held together by financialization. So when you pull the pins of financialization out of the monster that was the global empire of debt, you have now countries are breaking apart, and this is causing a lot of agita. I mean, El Salvador was the spark, the Bitcoin spark, and it's starting a revolution, and it's spreading to Latin America. We see it in Africa. There's a revolution going on. There's a huge power shift, right? So the U.S. and Great Britain and maybe some European powers and others are going to lose power. I mean, that's that, and some other powers are going to rise up. But that's just the cycle. That's one of the cycles, and it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but it's happening. So at some level, it's making some sense on some level.
Right. Well, yeah, it's making sense because there's somebody compared this whole time to what Stephen Hawking wrote in his groundbreaking book about the origin of the universe, and he said it wasn't even worth trying to understand whatever came before because it's not possible, because we don't even know. We can't, it's not within our own understanding of the known physics of this universe. So we can't predict, we can't know what could have come before because all of the physics would have been different. And that's what I think is what we're seeing now. Like it is a big bang going over the event horizon of the black hole of debt the black hole of fiat and all the fraudulent debt. Like, we went over that event horizon. We started to get pulled into it from the birth of Bitcoin, and it was pulling us into that. And then once you pass the event horizon where there's no turning back, there's no way to go back, that's when the spaghettification happens, and you're just like dragged, like trying to hang on to the world you knew, and the spaghettification happens. You know, I was actually thinking that. So that the world you knew, right? You're trying to hang on to it, and you're being dragged into the black hole of what's coming next, right? That's my interpretation. When I look at it, I think, you know what? Bitcoin is peace, and peace is coming. This is going to be a short.
Demonetizes war and hatred.
Yes,
for sure. But it's not going to happen obviously this week or next month. It's going to. You still have a few battles to fight and win.
Yeah. Well, the old saying used to be, if there's no two nations with a McDonald's will go to war.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's no two people with Bitcoin will go to war, right?
Right.
Because they have a low time preference. They believe in the future. And we're all a family.
It's unconfiscatable.
And it's unconfiscatable.
It's the upside to beating somebody up for their Bitcoin is very low because it's unconfiscatable. So you have to come at them with something else to get their Bitcoin, something value for value. You know, you will help them fix their roof and they'll get some Bitcoin. You can't just hit them on the head with a hammer and steal their Bitcoin. So that process is going to take some time. Those who fight it will be, you know, be stuck in the fiat world, and they're never going to make it. Those who are taking Bitcoin on as legal tender, as the global standard, you know, but that's where we're at right now. So you've got Bitcoin has essentially thrown the gauntlet down and said, either you're with Bitcoin or you're against Bitcoin. If you're against Bitcoin, prepare to reap the whirlwind of your stupidity. If you're with Bitcoin, then prepare for relentless optimism.
But also, like, for me, and I think most people feel like this, is like when you meet a Bitcoiner, you feel like that is your first connection, right? Like, I feel more connected to somebody because they're a Bitcoiner than if they're American or a woman or from Connecticut or like wherever, any other thing that has been part of my life. Like, I feel most connected to a Bitcoiner. So I feel more connected to a Bitcoiner in El Salvador or Nigeria or Bolivia or Mexico.
Right. Well,
or,
to that extent,
Ukraine,
it has certain characteristics of a religion. That's why some people say, oh, you guys are in a cult. You guys are
tribe.
a religion or, you know, a tribal reference. You know, and that's true with certain religions. You can have a certain religious faith, and you can go anywhere in the world, and if you share that faith,
sure,
you're immediately in tune with that person. You have the same rituals. You have the same,
yes,
you know, language. In a lot of ways, you look at the earth in the similar way. And so with Bitcoin, the values are consistent throughout the entire tribe or the entire community of unconfiscatable, uncensorable, immutable wealth. There are three things that everyone in the Bitcoin community accepts: unconfiscatability, immutability, uncensorability. That's three things we accept as being true, and therefore that offers a communion when you meet other people. So that's absolutely true. And it's because it's perfect money and you have perfect price discovery, you know, it means it's going to win. So we have confidence.
It's not possible to lie, right? No. With Bitcoin.
It doesn't get monetized the way lying does in the fiat world. You can make a living lying in the fiat world, but you can't make a living lying in the Bitcoin world.
When the stock market deteriorates, many investors shift their funds to less risky and more reliable assets like U.S. Treasury bonds. Some Bitcoin investors are examining other investment possibilities and returning their funds to the dollar as a starting point before deciding what to do next. Max says this is a make or break time for markets around the globe, as the crypto industry at large has too many working parts to be stopped. Max doesn't believe government should be involved and says that Bitcoin's longevity is designed to survive without intervention from any governing body. But what do you think about Max Keiser's Bitcoin prediction for this year and the direction for the crypto market? Comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.